theories and ideas shared in this episode are based on publicly available information and are for the purpose of creative thought and entertainment. The topics we discuss are our own opinions and purely speculative. Our aim is to explore claims made by prominent individuals, verify them best as we can, and discuss their potential reality. We're just two regular dudes who are fascinated by this phenomena. Enjoy the conversation.
So this next video is going to be Grusch on the Joe Rogan podcast. I've seen this one in full and personally found it really interesting and fascinating. It's brought to us by the X handle Myth-Informed MKE. Myth-Informed MKE.
All right, let's check it out.
This answers a fundamental question for humanity. Are we alone, or what happens when we die? Well, I don't know about that, but are we alone? Well, the answer is we're not alone. And I know that with 100% certainty, which as an intel officer, you never say 100%, but all things pointed towards, based on the people I talk to, like Harry Reid, and I use him as an example, but I talk to the highest of the high people you could possibly talk to, if you catch my drift. So unless all of them are lying and they're covering up something else, which I don't even know what it would be at this point, because the phenomenon is real. It's been going on for thousands of years. People have been seeing strange things, and not everybody's mass hallucinating. So that's kind of my long diatribe about what's happening.
What do they think these things are? The people that you talk to.
So they specifically, the people on the program that handle the material, that were in executive level briefings with intel community leaders and other folks over the years, last 20 years or so, they did use the term extraterrestrial, ET or whatever. Okay, that isn't a possible origin, but the Schumer Amendment, if you read it, it specifically uses non-human intelligence, NHI, very deliberately, because we want to catch everything, because what if some of this stuff is not ET and they're going to use that as an escape clause? Like, well, this stuff that we don't even know if it's extraterrestrial, so this doesn't apply. So that's why we wanted to be as broad as possible.
All right, so yeah, that one was interesting. It kind of reminds me of what you brought up on a different episode when you speak about non-human intelligence. Does that potentially mean AI? It doesn't always mean ET or aliens necessarily. Right. So,
yeah, that was my thing with the whole non-human thing. It leaves the door open for a lot of different things. Like non-human could mean a dog, because if you look up the rate, like the space race, for example, of Russia and America, that they were launching different animals up into space or up in rockets. And if we came and recovered, a crash retrieval program where we go and crash retrieval from Russia, and they were launching up a dog or something, then that's technically non-human.
right.
I do think, though, that Grusch is smart enough, and the people that he works with are smart enough to know that that's a dog, or that's a monkey or something, some other animal that they may have put in this rocket to go up there, that it's like, okay, that's a Earth, animal.
Yeah.
So, or, or AI, artificial intelligence. That's technically non-human. Now, humans made the AI, but you could also just say that AI itself is a form of its own thought, and that is non-human.
Well, yeah, a lot of people too think that with how vast space is, that we'll probably send robots with AI eventually to go explore because our human bodies perish after so many years. But if you send an artificial intelligence to go do some reconnaissance, you don't have to worry about feeding it. You don't have to worry about sustaining it, and it can travel vast distances without needing without needing support.
Right. And that's the other thing, though. Yes, that is true, but non-human, if you think about AI, it leaves the door open for, well, this was just something that humans created,
Yeah. Well,
and Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people's theories are, if we do get contacted by another race from a very far distance, that they could
Right.
send their version of AI or robots.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 No, I see what you're saying. It's just whenever you're trying to decide is this extraterrestrial or is this ours, and you use AI, it's easier for people to use the whole, oh, that's ours,
Hmm.
if you're talking about AI. But yeah, I'm sure that the AI, if it were from another place, it'd be way more advanced than the AI that we have. It
Yeah,
would have different features. It would be run differently. It would be it would the functionality would be way different,
right.
So,
Or
and yeah,
we're thinking there's also talks about potentially us one day being able to upload our consciousness into some kind of machine. And so you could have something like that, like a robot with a human conscious
right.
or another
That you
type
wouldn't
of,
need a body.
yeah,
You wouldn't need a
exactly.
biological body.
Or
Yeah,
another race of beings, consciousness. Some races out there, for instance, might just be nothing but pure conscious. We don't know. I mean,
right. I also wanted to touch on the whole 100% certainty.
yeah, that was great.
Um, I mean, he is letting us know that this is real and this has been verified under classified settings, unfortunately. But you do not hear very often people in that position say a 100% certainty.
True.
So that I found that very interesting, and the fact that he said that the people giving him the information and the people he was interviewing, they used the term extraterrestrial. That's interesting too. And it makes you wonder, is it just because it's so high tech that they don't know where it came from? Or do they actually have an idea of where some of these came from? What star system, for example, that these may have come from? And I really do kind of wish, though, that somebody has asked him, because I don't think anybody has. Is there any type of like star system that anybody has mentioned? Like you and I were talking before this recording, the Barney Hill, the Betty and Barney Hill story. They mention a specific star system, where the beings that abducted them came from.
Allegedly
And
abducted.
right, yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
allegedly adopted
yeah.
and abducted, and but yeah, so that would be really interesting because it's like he doesn't want to say that we know exactly where these come from, and it could be a variety of them. It may not just be one, entity or one group that they're getting retrievals from. It could be a variety, but it would be kind of interesting. Is there any evidence that it points to any certain star system or something like that? That would be interesting.
Yeah, Grush, if you ever listen to this, we want to go in that skiff with you and learn and ask you questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take us to the skiff, man. We won't tell anybody.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stop this one. So this next video is David Grusch actually testifying to Congress. So this was an excerpt from his testimony. This is brought to us by C-SPAN's YouTube channel. Yeah,
All right. Yeah. So this is an introduction to him going into Congress. And again, like we talked about earlier, it's a big deal to us, at least, going under oath and talking about this stuff, because again, it it just means that it's going to be taken more seriously because money's involved to have the hearing and money is involved to investigate it. So if somebody comes up there, talking about a bunch of BS, then there's going to be consequences for that.
true. All right, well, I guess let's check it out then.
Mr. Chairman, ranking members and congressmen, thank you. I'm happy to be here. This is an important issue, and I'm grateful for your time. My name is David Charles Grusch. I was an intelligence officer for 14 years, both in the U.S. Air Force, both active duty Air National Guard and Reserve, at the rank of major, and most recently from 2021 to 2025, or excuse me, 2023, at the National Geospatial-Intelligence Agency, NGA, at the GS-15 civilian level, which is the military equivalent of a full bird colonel. I was my agency's co-lead in unidentified anomalous phenomena and transmedium object analysis, as well as reporting to the UAP task force, UAPTF, and eventually, once it was established, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. I became a whistleblower through a PPD-19 urgent concern filing in May 2022 with the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Following concerning reports from multiple esteemed and credentialed current and former military and intelligence community individuals that the U.S. government is operating with secrecy above congressional oversight with regards to UAPs. My testimony is based on information I've been given by individuals with a long-standing track record of legitimacy and service to this country, many of whom also have shared compelling evidence in the form of photography, official documentation, and classified oral testimony to myself and my various colleagues. I have taken every step I can to corroborate this evidence over a period of 4 years while I was with the UAP task force and do my due diligence on the individual sharing it. This is because of these steps, I believe strongly in the importance of bringing this information before you. I am driven by a commitment of both to truth and transparency, rooted in our inherent duty to uphold the United States Constitution and protect the American people. I'm asking Congress to hold our government to this standard and thoroughly investigate these claims. But as I stand here under oath now, I am speaking to the facts as I've been told them. In the U.S. Air Force, in my National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, reservist capacity, I was a member of the UAP Task Force from 2019 to 2021. I served at the NRO Operations Center on the Director's Briefing staff, which included the coordination of the Presidential Daily Brief and supporting variety of contingency operations, which I was the Reserve Intelligence Division Chief backup. In 2019, the UAP Task Force Director asked me to identify all special access programs and controlled access programs, also known as SAPs and CAPs, we needed to satisfy our congressionally mandated mission, and we were direct report at the time to the DepSecDef. At the time, due to my extensive executive level intelligence support duties, I was cleared to literally all relevant compartments and in a position of extreme trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, to which I was denied access to those additional read-ons when I requested it. I made the decision, based on the data I collected, to report this information to my superiors and multiple inspectors general, and in effect becoming a whistleblower. As you know, I've suffered retaliation for my decision, but I am hopeful that my actions will ultimately lead to a positive outcome of increased transparency. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
So yeah, that one was just, a brief overview. It was interesting how he said, I've had people come to me with evidence, be it photography or just testimony, and speak about these things that he's learned about. And then once again, he went over, I have all these clearances and I'm in this task force that investigates UAPs, but when I went to go get further information, I was denied access.
Yep.
But he still saw enough to, tell us what he's telling us today.
Right. He got the clearances eventually. So he was denied early on, and that's what made him really start scratching his head and going like, why am I getting denied to this? And so then he kept getting more and more clearance, and apparently he was still getting denied access to this stuff. And that's whenever he started to, whenever he did start seeing the real meat and potatoes, if you will, that's whenever he became a whistleblower and started to submit a case to the Inspector General,
right,
who is now investigating it.
which he was retaliated for against, you know, and then so reprimanded. So that's
Mhm.
great. You're just doing your job, and then you know you get all this. So I don't blame him for becoming a whistleblower.
Right. And we missed none of our clips had this, but the inspector general did. He ruled that Grush's claims were urgent and credible, or credible and urgent. I think that's how he phrased it verbatim, which makes this very interesting as well. Is when you have the inspector general saying that this is credible and urgent, that's another more validity to who Grush is and the respect that he has from the inspector general, for them to want to start an investigation on this,
Very true.
and the evidence that he brought forward to him as well. Um, Also, because this is the congressional hearing, one of the videos that we watched, it touched on non-human intelligence being in a congressional bill in Congress, and Chuck Schumer putting that in the bill. There is a UAP bill, um, that Congress is trying to pass. It has tried to pass it multiple times, that includes the phrase non-human origins, non-human intelligence, materials from non-human, yeah, origin or intelligence. That is really interesting. That again, it's more validity to, they are trying to put this through Congress. They're trying to put this through a bill because David Grush testified in Congress.
Yeah. Well, I hope they stop denying it and we get some more clarification. You know.
Easy now, Andrew.
Yeah.
Don't be getting all upset over there. You're just ready to see it, aren't you?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, all this stuff is super fascinating. So, you know,
It is.
extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You know, I've said that
Hmm.
before. So,
But what about it? What if the extraordinary evidence is classified?
well, you know, then we'll still be where we're at today.
I know. And this is why people should be in support of Grush that do want to see this. And we joke about the skiff stuff. We joke about him not being able to say enough. But I think that we both do respect him a lot for coming forward. And because of that, there is hope that a lot of this will become unclassified and um, it will get briefed, if you will, to the people, or there will be some sort of coming out about it, from the government to the people of some form, whether it's willing or unwilling. When you have people like Grush that are whistleblowers, and again, I'm going to say that he is a whistleblower, just because he's not telling the public everything and every detail. He has he has submitted this for an investigation by the inspector general, and he is working to get this unclassified so that it can be shared with the public.
Yeah. I mean, that would be amazing if we could get some more information for sure.
Hmm. You got anything else to add on this one? On his opening statements?
No, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Him just talking to Congress and giving a little
Hmm.
backstory. So yeah, I mean, we kind of covered some of this stuff before, but we just really wanted to put it out there. Like, look, this is him in Congress, you know, saying the same thing he said in other interviews and other places.
Right. And the retaliation part is interesting too. What kind of retaliation is he getting? And that's part of the whistleblower process as well. Is when you're facing retaliation from exploring, um, these programs, that is concerning. That that means that there is some level of secrecy or maybe even illegal activity that is going on. Um, that if he's getting retaliation from exploring this stuff as part of his job, um, again, that's just something that is just more interesting and more. It's just a little little scary.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you know too when you talk when you know just putting your name, attaching your name to anything related to this can cause
Hmm.
stigma. You know, it can cause people to look at you differently. I'm sure you've experienced that, Ross, whenever you're just talking about this, or you know, me mentioning that I'm doing this podcast to people. You know, it just some people will just they just have
Yeah.
such a closed mind that they just won't even accept close to the possibility that any of this stuff could be true. And once again, we're
Right.
not saying it's true. We're just reporting on the information that's out there.
Right. And just because it doesn't make sense in your mind doesn't mean that it cannot be a reality.
Right.
I've actually learned this from sports. You hear this all the time in sports. There's no way that team A is going to lose to team B. There's no way that they're going to be able to do this or this. There's no way that in any universe that could happen. And I've just learned that anything can happen.
Anything's possible. Yeah, you shouldn't be closed-minded. You know, you can have form your own opinions, but you still just can't be super closed-minded on things.
Right. And we learn new things about how our universe works all the time. I mean, you're watching TV on, the History Channel, Discovery Channel, something, and you're just going to find in everyday life, you're going to be like, "Oh, I didn't know that that type of thing was possible," you
Yeah.
know? And so to close your mind to this, it's it's not doing it justice. You gotta be open to some of this because it is very interesting, and there are a lot of credible sources. As we went over in the Elizondo video, there are a lot of credible sources in this topic.
Yeah, it'd be one thing if Grush was an outlier and everything he said wasn't backed up, but there are other people that back up his claims, back up him as an individual, so it gives him a lot of credibility.
Right. All right. Well, let's check out some more clips.
All right, let's do it. All right, so this video is brought to us by @Newsweek Mag. This is just a short, and this is Mr. Grush talking to Republican Nancy Mace, the Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
All right. Let's get to it.
Let's check it out.
If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
If you believe we
Ooh, so yeah, that's his big claim that I know you love, Ross. Non-human biologics. I think you're muted again.
My bad. I didn't want any clicking while we're watching it. That's the moment that everybody was waiting for. Right there, whenever he's under oath in front of Congress and he says those magic words.
Yeah.
Non-human.
Yeah, I mean, that just opens up the door for all sorts of questions.
Right.
Non-human,
And
okay,
and
please tell us more.
biologics.
Yeah,
Biologics. And that takes a little bit away from the AI thing that we were talking about earlier. If these are biologics, you think of biological, um, like flesh.
yeah,
So
yeah.
very
But
interesting.
you know, I guess it could go as deep as, you know, are these just skin cells or are these whole parts of a body? Like, you know, what exactly? So,
Hmm.
yeah, I would kill to know that information. Just kidding, I wouldn't kill, but I would love to know that information.
Yeah, yeah, same here. It's just, man, dude, this is just fascinating. Every time I see this, and I've seen these videos hundreds of times. I show friends, I show family these videos. I've seen these hundreds of times, and every time I see this, it's just like watching it for the first time. I'm just like, wow, he said it. He said it.
Yeah, yeah, it's an amazing claim for sure.
Right. All right. Well, let's check out a few more.
All right. So this is more the congressional testimony. Here we have him talking to Republican Anna Paulina Luna, and this is also brought to us by the channel @Newsweek Mag.
All right.
In the last couple of years, have you had incidences that have caused you to be in fear for your life? for addressing these issues?
Yes, personally.
Do you have any personal knowledge of people who have been harmed or injured in efforts to cover up or conceal these extraterrestrial technology?
Yes. Personally.
Have anyone been murdered that you would that you know of or have heard of, I guess?
I have to be careful asking that question. I directed people with that knowledge to the appropriate authorities.
In the
All right. Yeah, that one is interesting. More talking about, some of the things he's received in retaliation for some of his claims, and
Yeah.
he can't be direct with some of his answers, but I think that's understandable.
Yep. And again, that shows that these are active investigations.
Yeah.
So, man, and you can tell that answer's yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
You don't say I can't get into that if the answer's no. You just say no.
Yeah, most likely
If
that wouldn't be your answer.
yeah, anytime that the question is like phrased like that, where it's a yes or no, and the person answers with I can't get into details, it's always yes. Because whenever people ask that question, a yes or no type question like that, um, and it's with sensitive information, they can still say no.
Correct, yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah. So this is going to be our final video clip for this podcast. This one is Marco Rubio on Sean Hannity's show, and it's brought to us by the X handle Meta Studio Logic.
Mm-hmm. And so this is Marco Rubio was interviewed after the congressional hearing about the UFO stuff because it made such a big splash in the media where people were talking about Grusch's statements and everything where, Congress members were being asked, well, what do you guys think about this? So his response is really interesting, and it was worth adding. He doesn't specifically say Grusch, but this his response is because of the hearing that headline Grusch.
All right,
So
let's take a
check
look.
it out.
You're on the Foreign Affairs Committee and you're really involved in foreign affairs. There've been a lot of articles lately about UFOs. I know this question is a little out there. Is there any truth to any of this?
Well, we don't know. All I've said is we have people that have very high clearances, both today and in the past, who did really important work for our government or continue to do important work for the government, who have come forward with some claims about the U.S. having in the past recovered exotic materials and then reverse engineered those materials to make advances in our own defenses and technologies. That's the claim they make. Now, I don't know if those claims are true or not. What I do know is that one of two things is happening here. Either they're telling the truth, and that is something that obviously would be the biggest story in human history, or we have people in really important positions of government who are crazy and who are out there making up stories and who are still in positions of importance. Either one is a big problem. So we've got to figure out which one of these two it is, because the second one in particular would be very troubling. But we don't. All we know is claims that people have made. These are credible people that have done and continue to do important work for the country. And by law, we're required when they come forward as whistleblowers to take their claims seriously and to investigate them. But we just don't know. That's the answer.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, he says it all right there. We've got credible people saying what could be the biggest news to the human race, or we've got crazy people in charge, which I'm less inclined to believe that when there's so
I am
many
too.
voices,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting too, how he uses the term exotic materials. That was another word that Grusch has been using. Exotic materials, non-human intelligence, non-human origin. So, you know, this statement was based off of that hearing that has just blown the doors open on this thing. And here he is. And you can tell Marco Rubio, he looks like a straight shooter. Like if he thinks something's BS, it looks like he's going to say it straight up. He's just like, he doesn't look like a guy who's just going to joke around about a topic like that. And you could tell that he's even taking it seriously, because it looks like he's probably had some conversations directly with people that he's just sitting there going like, man, this might be true.
Yeah, the big takeaway to me was he said, oh, these guys might be crazy, but then at the end he says they're credible people. So,
And they're doing good work for the government.
yeah,
They're doing, high level work. So
right.
these are guys with high security clearances. Not just anybody gets a high security clearance.
Yeah, very
I
true.
mean,
You would
mhm,
you would hope that they would screen for any kind of mental instability if they're giving
right,
you these clearances or giving you these positions of power. So,
right. And they can take it away just as easily as they gave it. You don't just, once you get the high security clearances, you don't just keep it. You have to repeatedly reapply for it, because again, this is very sensitive information. So, it again, more validity to this topic that credible people with credible, possibly credible documentation, you know, are coming forward to Congress members. They're meeting with Congress members in these whistleblowing situations, these whistleblowing processes.
yeah, one thing to note, he did say, as in the whistleblower process, we do have to take them seriously, their claims.
Hmm. So,
All right, so yeah, this is basically everything that we surmised about David Grusch. At the end of the day, it's up to you to formulate your own opinions. But just we wanted to present that he is a credible person with very high ranking within our government, and his job was to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena. So this is all the evidence and things that were disclosed to him, and the things he can tell us in public. So whether you believe he's crazy or he's telling the truth, it's just up to you to formulate. He got on our radar, like we said earlier, right around 2023 with his congressional testimony. So yeah, it's fascinating some of the stuff he says. I want it to be true, but then again, he might have just been fed misinformation, like we said. So I can't wait to see what else comes to light from all this.
yeah, very interesting guy, very interesting claims. Again, this was Fravors' situation opened the door for me, and then Grush has kept me in there. Just rabbit hole after rabbit hole of I've been stuck on this topic ever since, this phenomenon, and it's interesting, and the amount of credible people in this UFO space is what it makes it most interesting to me, that you have so much credibility yet no evidence, because the evidence is all classified.
Well, we
There's
do have those
evidence
videos.
enough.
Yeah.
Right, right. But those videos are, you know, they're the least compelling, as Elizondo put it, of what, videos we have available to us. Grush has mentioned that there are much clearer videos and that are much more compelling. But it seems that any type of verifying uh, evidence that Grush could, use to prove his claims, it's all classified. But still, it's really, really interesting. We're going to be following this, obviously, week to week. And we may also, starting next month, um, and this week too, because we are going to, this is a two-parter, but we're going to start trying to do 2 videos a day, more often. So just because of how interesting these conversations are. So I don't know what I feel about Grush. I'm very interested. I think that he has a lot of credibility. I think that there is a possibility that he could have been fed bad information. And if that is the case, I think there should be an investigation into why. Why was he fed bad information? What is going on that was necessary to do? Because in my opinion, the types of threats that he was getting and everything that was going on that made him become a whistleblower and create a case to the inspector general, that's illegal activity and that should be investigated to what is going on. So for me, there's definitely something going on. Is it non-human? Is it alien? I don't know, but he does make a compelling case that it is. And
And
so I'm going to keep an open mind to that.
at the end of the day, he brought this information forward to the public. So,
Mhm.
whether it's factual or misinformation, we've got to thank for that. That he potentially is trying to help us out with bringing this to light. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I just want to say thanks again for all your support, guys. If you made it this far, we appreciate you. So
Mhm.
like we said in the beginning, don't forget to subscribe, like, click the bell for notifications if you want to stay on top of this stuff. As Ross was mentioning, we're going to try to do these videos twice a week if we can here in the future. It does take a lot of
Mhm.
time and effort for us to put these together, so we do appreciate your time in watching them.
Right. Yeah. And again, thank you for liking, subscribing, and watching and finding this entertaining. It's a blast for us to talk about this stuff. And please help us get the information out there. Talking about this, it is fun, but also, I think that it could be, world changing and possibly better for, our society if we get this type of information out there. So thank you. And as always, we'll see you next week. Rusty Saucer out.
Ross Susser, oh!